With the release of Volume 2, there was also a noticeable change in how the game was played. Or I should more or less rephrase that, one rule was completely phased out in favor of another one. The junior rules, which allowed you to summon a monster regardless of their star count without tribute and only allowed you to play one spell and one trap per turn, was phased out in favor of the master rules, meaning you had to tribute at least one monster of 5 and 6 monsters, and 2 tributes for 7 and above, ultimately making a good chunk of the 2 tribute monsters besides Blue Eyes, useless. Volume 2 sort of represents how much of Series 1 is going to end up going. Very, very slow change and build-up of power creep in regards to the attack powers of monsters, and generally how beatdown decks would go. Not like more or less we'd get, Dino beats or Dragon beats, just very strong normal monsters paired with at least one powerful one tribute monster to beat your opponent to death with. But enough about that. Let's talk about the cards of Volume 2. First off, we have a monster that I am honestly impressed that we have yet to see some kind of fully realized archetype around, considering how every monster Yu-Gi used in the anime has something like that. Mystical Elf, which, yeah, guess what its Japanese name is. If you guess Holy, congratulations, you win nothing. Okay, you get a solid defender. It may not be as capable of attacking compared to Aquamador, but for players who didn't go to the premiere of the Yu-Gi-Oh movie or get their hands on one in the off-market, it was a decent replacement alongside another monster. Tahone is definitely above average for what normal monsters were at the time, 1200 attack and 1400 defense as compared to what we have seen before. Though shooting from far away, you would think that by doing this would be hard to kill, but I'm guessing monsters are snipers capable of killing it quite easily. Though it does hint that you should use one of those mountain field spells from the starter box, which you can buy and not worry about what is in it because you're getting everything in it. And you thought we were done with the filler fusion monsters. Oh, we're gonna be here for so long. Zombie Warrior, Skull Servant plus Battle Warrior, which you go from, hey, you need one additional set for some materials, but now you need the starter bark, which, okay, you probably would have had it, but you also needed to pull the starter Battle Warrior from Booster 1. So if your luck sucked, then you were SOL for a 200 extra attack Battle Warrior. Woo. But we move on from the worthless. But there is no yes, there are pathetic cards in this game. It's called Fusion Monsters, which will be pathetic for a while. To the OCG's OG boss monster. Yes, while the TCG would get Summoned Skull, the OCG started with Curse of Dragon. It may be evil and used Darkness for attacks, but it was worth it. This was the original beatdown boss. One tribute was perfectly fine since you were just replacing one monster for a stronger one, and this, for a while, would be the strongest one tribute you would get access to. It would get surpassed, but at this point it was arguably the best. Anyway, after the good, we move on to more trash in the form of Carbonalo Warrior, which, maybe I'm being a little too mean on this one. In comparison, it is actually better than its fusion materials in M Warrior number 1 and 2, both of which are in this set, so it is quite possible you can make this if you grab it. But still, would you rather use your resources on something that is powerful and consistent, or something that's silly and, well, cool, just not worth it? Especially since you will be getting the exact same thing, 1500 attack, without the need of fusion. Arabi the Wild Raptor is our new champion of normal summon's strongest monster. Taking it from the much harder to obtain can the Swordswoman or Swordsman Woman, it runs really fast and attacks with sharp claws. Being a common card in this set, you would likely be guaranteed to nab your hands on a trio of this, and combined with one of the new equip cards, make it an 1800. It still can't topple the defenders, but it is a nigh unbeatable monster besides Curse of Dragons or Removal, making it the definitive best monster of the set alongside Curse of Dragons. And we've gone from normal to fusion to normal back to fusion, and we have Kamayan Wizard, which I think may actually be our first Chaos monster. I mean, it doesn't follow Chaos rules, but in the OCG it's called Chaos Wizard. Anyway, you are not summoning this monster. Ever. Why? Because you would have to be a complete idiot to decide, hey, I want to trade in my 2k defense mystical elf for a 1300 attack monster. Unless you are far enough ahead and capable of getting away with it just to silence your opponent. Actually, looking back through all these cards is sort of nostalgic. I played, i.e. stumbled through a lot of Eternal Duelist Soul on Game Boy Advance as a kid. This deck just seemingly has a lot of the cards in that, like Supporter in the Shadows, a duo that supports you from the shadows, which despite that has an even 1,000 across both stats. My best guess is that it empowers a monster attack for them, but they can't use the stat or add to it, so it's just 1,000 attack regardless. You love the Blue Eyes White Dragon. Now behold the Blue-Eyed Silver Zombie? I was thinking more like Skull Bat chomping on an eye that has floating hands. And rather than biting you, its eye is a zombie beam that transforms you into a zombie. Yeah, one of the lesser monsters in this set at only 900 attack, so more filler, but just remember that this is not a Blue Eyes monster. It's a blue-eyed monster. Also, it's a pirate. Which, yep, back to the lower tier of monsters as we talk about the Bewitching Fantasy, which, you know, pretty progressive of 1999 Konami to be calling a guy bewitching, because I feel like it's something you would refer to a woman as he charms himself to either defend against the attack or use it to lull him into a false sense of security, hitting him with the cane. Who knows, maybe it is a girl since it's really androgynous look and we don't see their face. In the TCG anyway, they make it clear it's a guy in the OCG. I honestly don't know how to describe Loribus. The text describes it as a bird-like creature, even though it looks more like a mantis with long scythe hands that it uses to strangle. Yeah, sure, when I see those sickles for hands, I am thinking strangulation. Hard armor. Yep, it is very hard indeed. Almost reminds me of Hard Man with its blue color. And despite having far more defense, it talks about its soldier tackle. I guess that means it just meets the opponent with his tackle, and whether it's stronger or not it would break its bones from just how hard he is. Okay, I'm happy enough to get through this without a boner joke. Moving on. Uh-oh, here she comes. Watch out, boy, she'll chew you up. Oh, here she comes. She's a man-eater. Don't tell me you wouldn't want to try that plant here and their poisonous tentacles. There are probably some freaks amongst you. Next, we have a combination of monsters. Think of it as sort of a sneak peek for when we get to archetypes, and I tried to explain how they combo, but not really since it's just a number 1 and number 2. They're effectively opposites. One has 1,000 attack and defense, the other has 500 attack and 1,000 defense. One's magnetic force is so strong that no one can escape it, and the other one has a tough, magnetically coated armor. It also brings up how they do combination attacks, the whole fusion mechanic between them, which, okay, probably next to Flame Swordsman is one of the better fusion monsters, but still not worth it if you have Urabi, which you should probably be able to get quite easily. Spirit of the Harp is basically another mystical health. Entered an attack, 2,000 defense, but a fairy rather than a spellcaster. Again, nothing too outstanding, just defending when you don't have Amador in your deck. Though, unlike the others, it basically weakens the monster with its harp so it doesn't kill them, so I guess they're lower to 1,900 attack. Yeah, if you were playing weird BS rolls, maybe you could figure something out. Okay, look, here's the thing. This is not like Zoro's free sword style, because rather than using his mouth for the last blade, Armail has its tail, which, when I initially looked at this card, I thought it was like, it was his head, but rather the tail just goes out of the frame so we can't see it unless you're looking at, like, the Duel Links version of the card. It's kind of interesting with a lot of these older monsters, when they got the Duel Links, you could actually see, like, the full monster and how they actually looked. Claw Reacher. Really, we had no better replacement for Killer the Claw. Another legless 1,000 attack monster that has no small eyes with sharp claws, but rather than being fast, it stretches to either scratch or pierce its opponent. Which, when compared to Larva strangling with its scythes, yeah, that makes a lot more sense here. Ever wonder if Shrek was actually evil and had this weird hat and tattoos across his body? Well, that's sort of what Terror the Terrible kind of looks like. Though rather than an ogre, it's a djinn living in the swamp, which I don't get the OCG text saying it's not powerful. This is actually pretty decent for what we have at this point. 12,000 attack, 1,300 defense isn't bad. It's not the best, but if you only open a couple packs, this was okay. Which is a lot better than you can say for Mud or the Rover. Mud is basically what this name is derived from. It's another case of the text, regardless of TCG or OCG, that is mean, calling it slimy and disgusting, emitting poisonous gas. So it must be that nuclear fallout mud that is filled with radiation. Now we must face one of the scariest things to ever face an extrovert. And people who despise having to do hard math. A 5 in the 10 spot. Okay, the extrovert thing is solitude. The name of the monster. A part deer, part satyr reaper sucking up the souls of all it kills by its comma. Of course, it does not have the horns because I guess goats are too associated with Satanism and the devil. Despite how imposing the thing looks in its art, I guess the scythe is made of glass because it only has 1,050 attack. Like, seriously, this would have been a badass boss monster and not just one that you summon in need of defense. Kumu Otoko actually is interesting as a name because if you separate it at the double O, you get Kumo Otoko, which translates as Spider-Man. Yeah, what would have happened if rather than becoming a human with spider powers, if Peter Parker instead became a human spider? This is what happens, a spider with human legs rather than growing 6 additional arms. It's probably as smart as Peter being able to defend himself. You wonder if he was welcome into the Spider Society, or if he hasn't had any canon events to make him a real Spider-Man. Anyway, okay, Defender, in a world where there are no other Defenders available. What remains? A person who died has been revived in the woods as a head with legs. And it's actually kind of okay because it has over 1,000 attack. No, seriously, this beats the likes of the Tomosaurus and the Furious Sin King. This little ankle biter reanimated by Dartmouth beats them out. Well, never underestimate someone by how they look, because your ankles may also get bitten off. And another example of just how much better the OCG was in terms of name scheming, we've got Metabat, an eyeball-themed monster that was created by a Servant of Darkness attacking with its Dark Blast. In the OCG, its name is Dark Napoleon. Yes, seriously, that is what this guy is called. Similar text to the TCG version, but rather than Dark Blast, we have Dark Bombs. Pretty interesting choice for what to name this monster. Who knows, maybe this kid is a huge fan of the Napoleonic Wars. And here's our next example of early censorship from the TCG, the Alluring Mermaid. Not Ariel here goes from wearing effectively a similar seashell bra to her inspiration to wearing a pink tank top that just really slims her chest down. And also it shows in the text as it's actively mentioning seduction in text as it drowns all who fall for her looks. Let her just lure her to a watery grave. It's like she gets to hit them like really hard with boulders in order to kill them. Because I feel like I would be far and away more terrified of that than just getting drowned, since I feel like some men would be weirdly okay with that, the whole drowning but while they're getting choked by a hot lady. Yeah, good night, everyone. Stone Armadillo, a monster with rock-hard fur that gives him some really good defense. Basically the Joey's World translation they did when this card went from the game to the real TCG. Almost basically translated word for word. And that would be true if not for the magical defense, and considering that there was going to be a stone form of defense we would get soon enough that was far and away better, so I'm guessing this one just used weaker rocks. Okay, we've gone how long without mentioning Fusion Monster? Okay, time to mention another terrible one. By combining Tyhone with these wicked wings of flame, you get the Phoenix named Marvelous. Yep, Phoenix. A bird well known for being unkillable and capable of reincarnation, and can be easily beaten and is quite weak. Not the most marvelous bird, if I say so myself. So would a machine known for making illusions be better at defending rather than attacking, like Hologram's image does look intimidating, but they are holograms, unless it's specifically the hologram technology that allows for wind to blow or your body to feel pain from the shadow games. It's such an odd monster that you would think would be like a zero attack, but maybe I'm missing something here. Anyway, mid-tier tier for the time, but it is notable as the first machine monster in the game. The most interesting thing about Dragoness, the Wicked Knight, or Magic-equipped Knight, is that both of its heroes are effectively the same stat-wise. Besides type and tribute, they're the same. That is it. God, interesting fusion monsters cannot come soon enough, so I have something more to talk about beyond just neat facts. And for our last monster, we have the One-Eyed Shield Dragon, who I initially thought it was like a bird with a long arm. Anyway, rather than like ramming with its beak, it brings up the shield as what it rams the people. So I guess it extends its stomach out in order to hit enemies. Kind of wonky when you think of that. Anyway, next up we have the spells. Just gonna fire through the first couple quickly. First up, the new 300 attack and defense booster for types. Fiend's got dark energy, Insect's got a laser cannon. Yeah, not something like swarming or some kind of injection, just a giant F-off laser cannon that shoots enemies. After that, Plants got Vile or Devil Germs, and finally the Soul Machine Monster got Machine Conversion Factory. Yes, they equip an entire factory and only get 300 more attack and defense. Okay, I guess it's more like small tune-ups more than anything else. Healing and Burn got power cupped again with Goblin's Secret Remedy, and Burn had Final Flame, or as it's known in Japan, penalty of burning at the stakes. Which, yeah, can you see why they changed the art for here with the religious connotations and Salem witch trials? But back to the more important spells. The first of two power spells from this set was Swords of Revealing Light, or Protective Seal Swords of Light. This was the first stall tool in the game, as it prevented your opponents from attacking for free turns, as well as getting to turn any face-down monsters face up. Not only could it stall them out while you were building field presence, but it let you know what was on the field rather than blindly attacking into something and risking life points. Free turns can be all it takes you to get back into the game or shut your opponent out before they got in. It was a bit more fair than some power spells. Rather than a card that could be a win-all, just needed a small push further, it was more catch-up or protection in the moment when it was necessary. Monster Reborn, or as WB would like to call it, Reborn the Monster, is very simple. Take one monster that has been sent to the graveyard on either side of the field, and sort it back into the field in every attack or defense position. It continues the trends of does something simple but extremely game-warping, either giving you a body for tribute or for pushing for lethal. It did a lot for a player who got into their hands. This was also a way you could, say, get around the need for tributing. You had a Blue Eyes or Dark Magician you didn't want to tribute, well, it's kind of hard right now because there's really no way to discard cards unless you hit the hand size limit and discard it that way. And by the time you can do it, beatdown's not as good as it used to be, so, there's that. These spells serves kind of a similar thing to Dragon Capture Drawer of counteracting one specific card at this moment, in this case. Swords Revealing Light. Since your opponent can chain a Dark Hole or a Regeki or a Monster Reborn to this card to use its effect before it's destroyed, it's very situational and only probably useful if you know your opponent has it. And there's no traps this set. And yeah, that was Volume 2, a nicely kind of nostalgic set, even though I wasn't born at this time. Well, I was born, I was like, still very young. And my time playing the GBA titles. But also an example of what is going to come in regards to power creep as the sets go on. Though before we leave, we should talk about two more products, though they're not major. First was the Duel Monsters 2 tournament. Now, no, this was not another tournament that was using the main game. This was using Duel Monsters 2 for Game Boy as the main game. The 4,000 participants were given a ultra secret rare Aquamador, which was another chance of getting the best defender, and then the official starter guide came with another copy of Flame Swordsman. See you in Volume 2 for better cards, hopefully.